Hey there, Joomla fans. Tim Davis here. I'm a Joomla fan too. Last week, before I got my haircut, I got on a Zoom call with Tanishq, Rahul, and Mahik from miniOrange. I met two of them, Tanishq and Rahul, at JDay USA. Their company miniOrange is still producing extensions for Joomla, and they weren't able to make a live stream, so I agreed that we could have a call and record it. So this is a recording of that call. We're going to start out talking about their passion for Joomla, talk about their company, and then they're going to show us the single sign-on extension that they have. And then, for a more bonus, we had some more discussion about Joomla and some of the factors that play into our lives when we're passionate about Joomla. As usual, today's video is brought to you by mysites.guru. Head on over to mysites.guru and get a free site audit for your Joomla site. All right, without further ado, let's check out the recording of that call. All right, Tanishq, Rahul, and Mahik, thanks for coming on to my channel here. Talk about your company and your extensions, your Joomla story, and about yourself. So let's take. You want to take some time and introduce yourselves and tell me a bit more about yourself.
Sure. First of all, thanks for inviting us all. So, I am Tanishq. Along with me, I have my colleagues Rahul and Mehak. We are all from miniOrange, and a little bit about our company. So, we were founded in 2012, and we are basically cybersecurity experts. Our niche is in IAM, identity and access management. And today we are mostly going to focus on a part called single sign-on and
Okay.
about our Joomla story. So I think we started developing Joomla extensions around 6 or 7 years back. So now that I think about it, it's been a real long time.
Okay.
So yep, it's been a real long time. And I think I did recently watch a few of your videos before we had a little interaction and we got to know each other around Joomla Day. I think there was something regarding previous Joomla days. Oh, I can't recall actually, but there were some of your videos that I really remember.
Well, that's
So
good.
yeah,
It's always good to watch my videos to butter me up before you come on the live stream. So, hey,
yeah, you
before
can
when
say
we're
that.
talking, you want to move your camera up a little bit so we can see the top of your head? You're just a bit out of frame. I didn't notice
Is this
that
better?
before. So, oh, that's good. Everybody wants to
I
see
think I
all of
think
you
that
there.
was by design just to show off the Joomla Day merge we got earlier
Yes,
this year.
I noticed he was showing the
Yep.
Joomla Day USA. Now, yeah, we did. Rahul, were you there in Washington?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So we
yeah,
talked that,
definitely.
and Tanishq. Yeah, we didn't get to talk too much, but I did see you, and it was good for us to connect. Okay, so first question I'm going to ask you guys is everybody, Joomla is not uh, a big percentage of the potential for selling extensions out there. So why do you guys continue to develop and support Joomla extensions?
Okay. So, believe it or not, Joomla is actually something that is close to heart. Um, my university, they had their websites on Joomla itself. And yeah, we did run into some issues here and there as a student, as a person who had to deal with Joomla, let's say, day to day, be it checking my
Okay,
attendance
so
or be it checking the grades. So it started off there, and I picked an interest about around about when I joined the company. So earlier it was just my daily usage of Joomla, but then it kind of became what we can do to ease Joomla, or what we can do to ease what other people might be facing. So I think that is a very brief answer to why we still or why we do develop for Joomla.
I mean,
good. Now,
to add a bit to that, sorry, Tim. There's a story like we like to tell within the company. So the company is around 10 or 15 years old. We were founded back in 2011. So there's a story that the early on members like to tell that the first box that we ever made that was via Joomla plugin because we originally started off as a development company, cybersecurity development company. Eventually, our primary flagship product became the miniOrange IDP. But initially, we began with developing plugins and extensions for platforms such as Joomla, WordPress, and Drupal. And the first income that we had was from the Joomla plugin.
Okay, good. So you've got a history of that, and you're established in it, and you're continuing, and you like it because it's been around for a long time in
Yes.
your life.
Yeah.
Good. Well, yeah, I wanted to ask that question just because every now and then companies stop developing their Joomla products or their products altogether, and so I think it's really good to highlight that there are companies too that are continuing to be committed to Joomla and have a long history in it and are supporting it and developing it. So that is good. Mahik, do you have anything to say? You got to say at least one thing during the live stream for having your name up there the whole time. And you're on mute. There you go.
You just got me on a spot over here. Actually, I am part of the Drupal team, but
Okay.
yeah, working with them, like I work with them all the time. So we work together, Drupal and Joomla. So yeah, it's kind of competitive at the same time. We work together. So it's
Okay.
nice. But yeah, I don't know much about Joomla.
Oh, okay. Well, you're welcome here. So
Yeah.
you're on the Drupal team. What other teams are there? You guys are you doing things? You obviously you must be doing things for WordPress, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And
We are spread out pretty thin all across the board, like from the popular CMS, WordPress, Drupal, Joomla. We also dabble in e-commerce. We are hoping to get in. I mean, I did get in touch with Adam during Joomla Day, and he has picked up J2 Commerce. So since we already do stuff from Shopify and Magento and even WooCommerce, we were hoping to get in touch with them and do the same for J2 Commerce as well, help them along the way.
oh wow. Now, Mahik, even though you're on a different team and you have different teams there, what are the common things that come up in development that you would share amongst the teams, or things that contribute to all of the projects that you have to keep top of mind?
Actually, I'm not very much on the development side, but yeah, I mean, the core things like the marketing that we do is very similar for both the CMSs and the analysis that we do. That also is on a very similar level. So we try to align each other with each other about our problem solving and customer interaction and everything.
Okay, good, good. So you're getting a lot of benefit out of all of the other teams and the things that are in common. So I don't want to use buzzwords like synergy, but whenever
No,
whenever I
of
get
course
an
not.
email that I got an email recently, someone said, "Oh, I was looking at your company. I think there'd be a lot of synergy between you and me." And I just thought, yeah, no, thank you. I think they also emailed me from a gmail.com address. So I just thought, no, we don't have synergy. So okay, that's good. Well, you go ahead and share the screen. Let's see one of the extensions that you've chosen to show us today.
Yep. I'll be sharing my screen. Well, I also think we need to show Mehak a few of your videos just to get us started with Joomla as well.
Yeah, but then she would be so sad that she's working on Drupal, and she'd be like, "Oh, I wish I was in Joomla."
I would love to. I would love to see them.
Well, that's the right thing to say.
Okay. So, before we get started, first of all, yeah, I already have the Joomla administrator panel or dashboard open. But before we get started, as I mentioned earlier, that Joomla is very close to heart. My university used to or still uses Joomla as their main CMS. So today, what we are going to showcase is something similar of the use case the university came up to us with. So recently, after I joined the company miniOrange, I kind of pitched to my university that this is a solution that maybe we can offer to the students, making it a little bit hassle free for them, even for the campus administrators and the account administrators. So this is kind of something that was implemented in that university. So just to get started, the basic idea was that whenever we had to check, let's say, our attendance or our grades, or a teacher had to upload some resources, there were many different Joomla sites they had to access, right? So let's say you see your attendance on your admin portal, for example. The campus admin shares that attendances, and for the course details, you have a very different institute wide Joomla installation. So there was an issue that whenever the semester got ended or something like that, people used to forget their passwords, and keeping the same password for across all Joomla instances was something that was not particularly safe, right? Because one password gets leaked, you have lost access to anything and everything. So I dealt with it. Then we came up with this pitch to our institute, and it was basically regarding single sign-on. So basically, we wanted to create a session on a single Joomla instance, which would allow us to seamlessly log in into the other Joomla instances. So the terms we use inside our company are IDP and SP, identity provider and a service provider, respectively. So basically, to give you an example, we can think of Gmail, right? Since you're a pretty big YouTuber for me, whenever you log into Gmail, whenever you enter your Gmail credentials, you get logged into Gmail, and then let's say you have opened YouTube. You don't necessarily have to enter your credentials against, do you?
No.
The thing is, so here Gmail is acting as our identity provider. It is a place where our identity, or let's say the username, is stored. And as soon as a session is created in Gmail, you automatically get signed into YouTube, or let's say Google Calendar, or any other Google service for that matter. So here, YouTube and the Google services are the service providers, or an SSO application for the sake of it. So that is something.
Sorry, just a bit to add here. You can also extend this quite a bit actually. So any of the random applications that we see, you often see a social login button like login with Google or something like that. So anytime you would, let's say you're already logged into Gmail or YouTube, you already have a session on the Google Workspace. So if you click on the login with Google button on that particular application, it will just check whether your session exists on the same workspace, and you don't need to type in the credentials again on the new service that is completely disconnected from Google. So it's not specific to that particular ecosystem, but it also works pretty much across the board.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. So let's then get started with the demo itself, or the introduction itself. So here we are in the components. I have already installed our extension. It shows up in the components. I have logged in already. So we start with a metadata file. It's nothing. It's just the service provider and identity provider. They need a sort of file, metadata file that allows them to communicate, that tells them who they are communicating with. Like it's kind of a handshake between the SP and IDP. So these are essentially the hands, the SP hand, the IDP hand. So it's a very simple setup. Just copy the URL, paste it into wherever your identities are. In this case, I'm using Azure. Majorly, we see that most of our customers are using Azure. So you just have to upload, let's say I want the URL, or if I have to, you can even download the file. Let's say you wanted to download the file. I downloaded it. Just click upload, select the file, and I guess you'll be done. And since I've already populated these, the save button is grayed out, but if there was some change, yep. we'll be able to do that. And while we are here, I'll just copy this URL. This is basically the part that goes from the IDP to the SP, sort of completing the handshake. Copy that and just go to the setup here. I'll add a new IDP, which would be the Azure IDP, and upload. You can name it whatever you want. We'll just simply name it Azure, enter the URL, and let's just take this fetch. And you can see the details have been saved successfully. Now we can test the configuration right now. So as you can see, I am prompted to log in through one of my Microsoft accounts. I created one for you.
Oh, great.
So just
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
I just say better luck next time, Tim. We are a cybersecurity agency after all. It ain't gonna be that easy, dude. So yeah, so as it says, the test successful. So we know that the handshake part, the communication part is clear now. So there are terms like attribute names and attribute value, which we'll be getting to a bit later. Or rather, I think
Dinesh,
I'll just show
you
you
want
right
to
now.
jump onto the login page of Joomla site? We can actually show what the
Yeah,
end
sure.
user would say.
Just a second. I'll just copy URL here. Let me just open an incognito window. So yeah, let's say it's a blank Joomla page. You get login with SSO button here. Let me just shift the zoom overlay a bit. So we have this button over here. Let's say I add Tim Davis. Just a second. Instead of writing the whole, I'll just change the last part.
The button that you saw on the initial login screen that can be completely customizable, however, your customer you want. And you can also even skip seeing that button. So essentially, the default login flow that you see, the username and password, you can continue with that. And once you type in your username, it will check on the backend whether the domain matches with a certain configuration that you've done in the module. And it can automatically redirect you to Azure in this case or any other IDP so that the user doesn't have to click on something that he is not familiar with. He can just proceed with the standard login flow that creates, well, again, to use a jargon word, a seamless login experience for them. But to put it simply, just a less confusing way of life.
Okay.
So
Cool.
while we were conversing with Rahul, we have already logged in using Azure. You can see, hi, Tim Davis. And let's just log out and close this window for now. Okay. So yeah, we tested this and there were some values we got here. Okay. So it's sign in. So sometimes what happens is, depending upon your IDP, these attributes might get a bit jumbled up. So like we can see that your last name and your given name, it's a bit jumbled up here, right? So we're just gonna go ahead and fix that with one of our features. So we can see again, surname, we are getting your first name, and the given name on the first name, we are getting your last name. So for that, we can just go to the attribute mapping section within the plugin, select the IDP that the user gets logged in from, in this case, Azure. And first, let's fix the attribute thing, then maybe we'll go feature by feature, right? So here I'll just add the first name column. So right now, if I just use the default column, the given name column, it would be kind of incorrect since the first name and last name here are flipped. So to have the correct name, I'll just use the first name column in the last name section, and the last name column in the first name section.
So the
Mm,
content that you see on the pop-up, that's the profile that's stored on the Azure side. And
Okay.
when it logs in, it is sending this set of information
information.
about this particular user. And if you need to access that same information on your Joomla site, then this is how you would map the Azure attributes to your Joomla attributes.
So we have now saved the attribute mapping. So this would essentially fix the jumbling up. Right now it was between your first name and last name, but let's say for the educational institute again, it could have been, let's say, a roll number getting mixed up with their registration number, or just causing hassles that should not have been there at the first place. So this is one of the features that I feel is a bit important. So now we'll just go back to the original flow. Domain mapping. So it's a feature where, let's say, you have again the university had many colleges or many institutes, as you say. So some were technical, some were new, which were starting to showcase AI, some were for law examples. So let's say I just want the technical people have their identities on Azure. Some people have on the other identity provider. So I'll just enter their domain. Let's say I'll just use something that is saved here. So symbiosis.com or securify.com, right? I'll save this. I'll go to my login page. Just a second. I'll just link. Save. And let's say I'm a part of securify.com. So if I just say it's not Tanish. See, right now I'm not adding the password here. I'll just click on login. So see, what we have done here is essentially based on the domain, you will get redirected to your IDP. So if you want your, let's say, Joomla admins, or let's say a Joomla site manager to log in from a certain IDP, or they have their identities on IDP they like. So you can just give in their domains and they won't necessarily have to perform the SSO button clicking operations. They'll just have to add the username password in the default Joomla fields instead of you having to place a button. And yeah, so again, we go for the normal login flow from here on. Now, let's say there was a very recent requirement that we faced where the customer, they essentially wanted that if a person exists in their Azure, in their identity provider, and they don't currently exist as a user in the Joomla user table, so the new user should not be created. Okay, so we just added a feature. Let's say we tick this. So yeah, no new user will be created, as the name suggests. So we have gone ahead and added very tooltips here. So if there is a feature that might seem something confusing or something you might not be able to configure, you can use this tooltips. We also have a handy dandy support format here. You just submit the query or you can ask on our forums itself. Also, yeah, recently we started a Mattermost channel of our own in for helping Joomlas who might face some issues. Some people might not be able to reach out via emails, or the support hours might not match up. Even though we offer 24/7 support, sometimes it happens that the support hours don't match up. So yeah, you can even reach out to us via Mattermost.
Yeah. So
And
that thing that you just showed. So if I went to a Joomla site and I put in my email address and it already exists in Azure,
Yep.
the plugin would say, "Hey Azure, does Tim's email address exist?" Say yes, and then instead of creating a separate Joomla profile based on that, it would get me to log in and create using the IDP.
Okay, so if your user already exists in Joomla
Yeah.
and you try to log in, let's say normally you're using Azure, right? So it will just check if, as you mentioned, it will just be a normal check if the user exists. If it does exist, then we allow the login, the SSO. And if it does not exist, a new user is not created. And since a new user is not created, the person cannot log in.
Okay.
But in your case, if you had mapped, let's say, Tim Davis at cybersalt.com, if you had mapped the cybersalt domain to with the Azure IDP, then when you type in Tim Davis at cybersalt, then it will check with Azure whether the domain matches my configuration, and then it will go to Azure, and then you'll complete the login process on Azure. So the entire burden of identity verification lands with Azure. We just
Okay.
check whether the mapping exists between Joomla and Azure.
Okay, so my tim@cybersalt.com address is a Google Workspace address. So I would set up the IDP to be Google, and then it would check that
Correct.
way. That's correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
I mean, if you got that bit of sneak peek or a teaser, Tanish, do you mind going back to the IDP page?
Okay.
Yeah, we can configure multiple IDPs as well.
Yes,
So right
okay.
now we have
Yeah.
configured the miniOrange IDP because, of course, and the Azure just for this demo purpose. So here you would add another IDP or configure another IDP using the add new IDP button. You'll connect that to your Google Workspace, type in the correct, it's just exchange of metadata and boom, your SSO is working. And then you'll have the SSO with Google.
Okay.
Also, another option is like we did here. You can just mention cybersalt.com if it is the domain, and
Okay.
you'll then get redirected to the IDP you have mapped it against.
Oh, I
So
see.
that's
Okay.
also an option. So yeah,
Nice.
we have very many options. So I am just explaining the key aspects or the ones that usually are required by customers that we see tremendous demand for. So
Yes.
one of the features is using, let's say, Azure for the slash administrator page, like the page we are currently at. So we can allow people to use Azure or the SSO service to land into this page. Now, this might run into some issues. Let's say your IDP is unavailable. Let's say, for some instance, Azure were to go down, like just like Google went down on Thursday. I think even you might have been affected by the outage like we were. So in that case, we also provide a handy dandy backdoor URL for the admins. So let's say your IDP is down, so you can just hit this link, you'll get logged in, and you can disable the administrator URL SSO for the time being until your IDP is up, or you might have another IDP set up for the time being. So yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, some people do have this question whenever we showcase our demos that what if the domain mapping, the feature I recently showed you, what if it fails? Like the feature where we were saying this feature where we had added our domains like symbiosis.com and securify.com. Let's say, for example, my user does not follow any of these domains. So what would happen then? So we can also configure that. We can either block them to not allow a login. We can show them links to the IDP so that they can select which IDP they belong to. And we can also allow them to log in with their Joomla credentials. So yeah, that's also an option.
Okay.
And again, this is the default Joomla functionality for shared session. Just added some two-step guide so that you can enable that.
Okay. Yeah.
And then this is a good feature, attribute mapping. Again, so just like we ran into the issue recently where your first name and your last name got jumbled up. So this essentially allows you to take care of that. And we are firstly greeted with this option, do not update existing users attributes. So this is basically, let's say I already added you as a user. Tim Davis is already your user here. So if you are an existing users, the changes that will follow will not apply to you, right? But if it's a new user, it will apply. If I don't take, then obviously it will apply to everybody. And these fields are populated by default, but can be changed depending upon your IDP, of course. In Azure, there are just some minor changes here in the name ID, and it works. Similarly, let's say you want some profile attributes to be taken from the IDP and stored in your Joomla user profiles, right? We have enabled the profiles option here. We have also enabled the option for contacts. So basically what this does is it maps the information coming from your IDP directly into your Joomla, let's say contact fields or custom fields if you have added them. So the main purpose of the plugin was essentially to solve the hassle of, let's say, the students from the university or the admins who had to, let's say, manually add user info or manually update user info if, let's say, you were to change your address. Now, some universities do keep a track of how far the students live to offer accommodations and transportations, etc. Right? So if they have to keep track of that, and whatever information it might be, so just removing that hassle, just copying the information that comes from a source that many students use. It could even be a social login here, right? I think everybody uses Instagram these days, Facebook these days, so we can get the information accordingly, right? So then we come to group mapping. It's similar, but in the sense of having the roles here. Let's say, so let's say you are creating new users via the IDP, and you want that whenever user is created, they get a default role. So there is no user left without any role. So that's just super easy here. Just enable group mapping, do not auto create users if roles are not mapped here. So what happens here is, if there is no role mapped here, there would not be a user that is created. So since we are here, this is the value that we get from our IDP, Azure. So I'll just copy that and showcase it. So groups, this thing. We add that here. And now the group name in IDP. So this is group name essentially refers to the value that IDP spits out against the, let's say, group attribute, and just copy that. So basically the setup here is mostly about mapping what information comes from an IDP or an external source to our Joomla, so that whenever some new information comes in, you don't have to manually enter it, impute it, update it. So it's just a one-time setup and then you're golden, right? So I'll just do author real quick. And whenever we save mapping, yep, we're done here. And I think that's about all we were trying to showcase here. So right now, what we have achieved from this is that the institute that I was mentioning, the students there can now just use their Google creds. The institute itself uses Google Workspace, so they can use their Google creds and they can just, whenever they're logged into, let's say, YouTube or Gmail for that example, they can just log into Joomla. They can see their attendances. They can log into another Joomla site and see the other information. So I guess that was the major implementation that I wanted to highlight here. So, yeah.
All right.
So,
Well,
any
that's so
questions?
you're using that. So you're using your one address everywhere, and you don't have to worry about your passwords. You just have to worry about your main password, which has probably some good protections on it. Hopefully, they're using 2FA and stuff like that.
Yeah. So
when
the
you
thing is, yeah, continue.
no, you go ahead.
Yeah, so what I was saying is having very different passwords and very many passwords opens up complications, right? You can either have very easy passwords so that they are easy to remember. Sometimes people have the same password all across. But the thing with having one password is that you can have one really strong password, right? Because if you share passwords, then it's as easy as one password leaking. So that essentially makes it more secure because again there is a single password, but it is way more secure than having a leakable or a very easy string of characters.
And I noticed that you're using Bitwarden, which me and my team use as well. And one of the downsides of it is that if you have subdomains or if you have so many
Yeah,
logins for
yeah,
different
yeah,
sites in those subdomains, I've started using different usernames that have the subdomain name in them so I can go and
yeah.
get them. But I often end up picking the wrong one and it doesn't work. So actually, to be able to just use that one address, a
Mhm.
password everywhere, that would be good. When someone, if so, you mentioned about creating an account for someone.
Mhm.
So if I understand this right, you would go to user, create a new user, put in their name, whatever, and their email address. And if it was an email address that was already, let's say that it's already on Azure,
Mhm.
would it automatically look to Azure and see, oh, this exists, we'll just use their existing password? Is that what it does? Or
Okay, so one thing that happens is when a user is, let's say, created on Azure, right? And, right now, we're not talking about a user that is currently on Joomla. It's a user that
yeah,
was created in Azure. Then they get logged in or they try to perform SSO into Joomla. At that point, the user is created with the existing email address and the attributes that have been mapped.
okay.
So at that point, let's say the email address and the related factors are same across the board. But for the question that you asked, let's say if the user already exists on Joomla and a person with the similar or what same user email exists on Azure. In that case, I think Rahul, do you want to take that? Because I'm not really sure about this, but we do have
Mhm.
options to tackle that. We look for if the username, we compare the emails that we have, let's say on Joomla, and the ones we have on Azure to see if they are unique or not. Right. So we do have those checks, and you can also change what primary key in the sense are you looking for? Is it the email, or let's say for someone's example, it could even be username. So we do have checks for that related checks related to that here. But I think Rahul might have a little bit of a better answer here as to exactly what would
Yeah,
happen.
yeah, maybe I understood the question a bit differently than you did. Let me just confirm whether what I'm understood is the same thing that you asked. Whether the situation A, the user does not exist on Joomla by default, he just exists on Azure. And when he's logging in via SSO the first time, his user and profile will be automatically created on Joomla. Is that right? Is that all your question was?
Yeah, I was wondering if I create an account for someone in the
Mhm.
back end and it happens to be an address that is already on Azure,
Mhm.
do I give them a password? Then later on they see that if I said okay, your account's created, then they when they went to log in, they would get directed to Azure instead.
Yeah, I mean, if they click on the login and SSO button, then they'll be
Oh,
automatically
okay,
redirected to Azure.
right,
And you
right,
wouldn't even have to create a password for them on Joomla.
okay,
And alternatively, if you had the domain mapping set up, they would just need to type in the email address and it will be automatically sent to us.
okay, yeah,
But
okay, yeah, because this
apart from, yeah, sorry.
no, you go ahead.
Then I was just trying to sort of tease another extension that we've got. That's a user managed, it's a user provisioning extension. It does the bidirectional sync of user information between IDPs and Joomla. So it can work on the SCIM protocol, but it can also work on APIs. So if you want to maintain information sync, then that is what you would use in real.
Okay. All right. Yeah, this is a very new area for me. I'm aware of it and it's there and I've seen it but it's not anything I've investigated. So you guys have really opened up my mind to the possibilities and some of it's still puzzle pieces in my head, but at least they're there now, so I can fit them together, which is which is how I learn. So the next step for me would be to try to do this on a live stream and really mess it up. So
I mean,
okay.
if you do mess it up, you can always reach out to us.
Yes, well, I like that you've got the 24 hour. Now, listen, right now while I'm talking, it's quarter to
Mhm.
12 in the morning. Oh no, 11:45 a.m. And you guys are you
15 past midnight right before us.
quarter after midnight? Yeah, so you're
Yeah.
13 hours ahead.
Mhm.
You're already in tomorrow. This is
Yeah.
yeah, good. Um, Yeah, so that's good. For support for your company, you said 24 hours. So you do you
Mhm.
do you have people all over the world in different time zones, or are you just making people stay up there in India?
We've got shifts that people work in. But
Okay,
we also have a couple of support folks in the US as well as the Middle East, and one in
okay,
Australia as well. So,
okay,
like a couple of people here and there, but the most of the workforce is working in shifts and from India.
okay. Well, that's good to know that with your stuff there, with the support request right there, but also you mentioned the Mattermost as well. All right. Anything else before I turn off the screen sharing here?
Not related to the plugin, I'd say. Yes, just I wanted to ask about your experience at Joomla.
Oh, my Joomla experience.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, well, yeah, the quick story there is I used to make pages. I mean, for instance, you talked about, well, everybody's using Instagram. I'm not using Instagram, but only just because have not quite figured out what to do on Instagram for Joomla yet, but partly
Mhm.
also because I'm old. So, yeah, I was making web pages using Microsoft Front Page. You remember that? No, no,
Okay,
yeah,
that's before
no.
my time.
Yeah, I
Which
know Microsoft Front Page, and then I started making pages with Dreamweaver, and they were
That one I
all
do know.
yeah, they were all boxy and square because I was just using tables, and then I would see sites that looked really nice. I ended up having a web hosting account with the company, and they had Fantastico and all these things that you could install. So I installed, so we're talking, like we're talking like 2000, right? So that's like
Mhm.
25 years ago. So yeah, don't, yeah. I like that. Tanisk is there shaking his head. He can't believe 2000. That was like. He's wondering how can I even still walk at my age. So anyways, I started testing installing these free programs. So they would have been like the first versions of things. So I installed WordPress. I wondered what it was. I couldn't quite figure it out. Then I installed Mambo, and it made sense to me. You know, I could put a title here, but then I saw the template system. And I thought, oh, that's how you can. And I wasn't so much interested in designing. I just wanted to get my content on. So I bought a template, installed it, and then it allowed me to start looking around. And then shortly start getting my content on. And not too long after that, that was when Mambo forked to Joomla, and I didn't really know. It's like, oh, they're having a fight about this. I don't know who to go with. And then I kind of read the forums and just kind of followed it a little bit. And I thought, well, it seems to me the people who are the talent and the who are behind developing it and building it are going with Joomla. So I'll go with Joomla. So that's why I made that choice. And then yeah, so I just did it as a hobby and as a side hustle, and then it started to grow. I was pastoring a church at the time, and then when I retired in 2017, I just thought my wife and I are working on. We're at that time, and she still is helping churches to sponsor refugees through Canada's refugee sponsorship program, and that didn't pay any money. And I had this business that had grown to a certain point, and I thought, well, that's the way that maybe this is the way that God's going to provide for us, and so now it's coming up on 8 years that I've been doing it full time. So yeah, that's my Joomla story, and yeah, I like it, and I'd like to, because you, Tanishq, you said that it's just part of your university and it's been there for a long time. So for me, I can't deny that I have an emotional connection to Joomla. So, I think it would be better if people, if we could realize the emotional connection that we have to Joomla. I think it would help us to make wiser decisions about Joomla, because I think some of the resources and energy that get drained from the project are because people are emotionally connected to and they don't realize. And so the way they interact with others is not necessarily business oriented or open source oriented. Sometimes there's a, a, a healthy percentage of emotion, and emotion is great. Passion is great, but it can also become a huge distraction if you're not aware of it. So that's yeah. So that's my Joomla story. So
Okay. Well, we are coming up real fast on 20 years of Joomla, I believe.
yeah,
And
I think so.
There was some talk about reviving the whole conference this year, right? Or is that happening next year now? Because I think there was some talk about overlapping that the Joomla World Conference with the 20-year anniversary of Joomla. But I think it's being done in 2026, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I've also heard a talk of they're planning like a 24-hour live stream around the world to celebrate the 20 years. So someone asked me what that would look like, or what I would recommend for software that, of course, the challenge would be, well, I guess there's some people that would stay up for 24 hours. I don't know if I could stay up for 24 hours now, but
I mean,
but
you've got Tim Hortons right in Canada, so why not?
yeah, Tim Hortons in Canada.
same with
There you
Chili's.
go. There's my
Yeah,
mug right there.
yeah, yeah.
Nice.
I was in
Yeah.
Canada a
So,
few months back, so I got hooked on the pizza.
where were you in Canada?
I was in Windsor. I have a brother who stays there.
Sorry,
Ontario. Ontario.
Ontario. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
It's just
born in Toronto.
across the Detroit border. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I was born in Toronto, and I grew up north of Toronto, and then I moved out here to Vancouver Island, which is on the west coast. And so this lighthouse is 10 minutes from my house. But
Oh,
if
very
you
good.
go a bit, if we say, this is reversed on the screen here. Over here off screen is Victoria, and there's like there's about 500,000 of us living on the South Island. So even though this looks very remote, it's there's a population and it is booming down here. So good. Yeah. No, I like Canada too. I'm all for Canada. So
Okay.
all
I really
right.
thought it was a stock image. Just to be
No,
honest, I
no,
really
no.
thought the background was a stock image. That's a real good,
Yeah,
realistic image.
that is Fiskard Lighthouse. It's the oldest lighthouse on the west coast of Canada, and it's it's part of it's a national historic site, and to get to it, you walk through Fort Rod, which is another national historic site here in Canada. So yeah, we see that we have two choices when we drive in, if we're driving into Victoria from our city, and one is to go along the water, and one is to go just through our city. So oftentimes we'll drive down to the drive by the lagoon, and yeah, it's beautiful. So yeah, all
I
right.
have a very unrelated question, if you would answer it.
Yeah,
Is
sure.
there what direction would you see Joomla taking in a few years? Do you think we'll be integrating AI within Joomla? Is there a chance for, an AI revamp or something that heads from Joomla first? Joomla
All-
first, then the others adopt it.
Yeah, so I just saw that Joomla applied for spaces in Google's Summer of Code, and they got all 4 spaces. I was going to actually going to make a little video about this. One of the projects is AI, incorporating AI into Joomla. So already there are AI extensions. I use the 4AI, the number 4AI from Weebler. So that's very much, excuse me, content oriented. Also, I don't know whether I should confess this or not, but I have a client that we're migrating from Joomla 3 to Joomla 4 and then update to 5, and they have a module that displays the categories, the subcategories of whatever category is being displayed, and also any articles that are in the current category being displayed. And the one they're using does not work in Joomla 4, and the equivalent is not there for Joomla 4 or 5 that I could see. And so I asked ChatGPT to make one, and now it's displaying it. So that's for me. I feel like when I use AI for programming, I feel it's like giving a machine gun to a child, because it's going to shoot and it's going to hit what you want, but you never know what they're going to do with it. So I don't want to get too crazy with that. But that, again, that was just simply just displaying things. So I think that I'm okay there. But yeah, so yeah, of course, AI's got to be incorporated, have some impact in something. There's just no way. I saw a headline the other day for an article, and basically it said that the hype around AI is underhyped. Like, even as mind blowing as AI is, it's not even close to what really is going to happen and see. So I think, yeah, definitely Joomla. That's got to be something that works its way into it, whether that's through third-party extensions or core. See, because the challenge for Joomla, whenever we add stuff to the core, it's got to be maintained, right? And because we can't take Mahike off of the Drupal team and put her onto the Joomla team so that she can maintain more things, right? We don't have people, so that's it. And I guess, in my opinion, that's one of the challenges of open source. I like open source. I'm sold on the open source philosophy and movement. But the challenge in open source too, then, as there's challenges in everything that's good, is the right people seeing and cooperating to do the new stuff. And I mean, so for instance, let's say AI takes a turn in a year, and so to really take advantage of it, we have to revamp something that's really core to Joomla, which means it's going to break some things. And then people are like, oh, let's not break things, because we're going to lose people. But on the other hand, it's like, hey, we need to keep up with things, or else we're going to lose. And I think that we've seen that. Again, I'm not. Mahike might be able to speak better to this with Drupal, because I think there's some people
Yeah,
that want.
when they moved from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8, they
Yeah,
changed a lot of it.
yeah, and there were people who said, no, we are going to stay with 7, and
Yeah.
so they stay with that. So that's the. I mean, that's, I guess there's a time to fork software and a time not to. But again, when people are passionate or emotionally committed to it, or just don't want to move. Yeah. But then again, that not all movement is good. So that's the. But I think AI is so huge. There's just anyone that says, I think I'll just pass on AI. You might as well just retire and start an ice cream truck or something like that. and then even then they'll have AI designing ice cream for people. So
We
are
What
do
you
have
guys,
got
customers you might get.
robots.
do any of your
Sorry.
extensions use AI?
No,
Not
not at
currently.
the moment.
And my hike um, does
The modules. No, we don't.
okay.
I mean,
So
part of it is also because uh, it there was an AI element to any of our extensions that opens up the conversation on compliances and data residency and what kind of access do you have. And since we, especially in the Joomla and Drupal ecosystem, deal with a lot of federal customers and like government or high security environments, these conversations are quite sensitive. They don't want any third party connections or calls or access or data processing done on their data.
mhm.
So our modules and extensions, including Joomla, are actually completely on-premise. So that gives them the sense of security that there would be no data exfil or outbound calls or connections, and they can securely deploy it in any environment that they choose.
Yeah. Well, I admire you guys because you're the brains, you're doing the programming, dealing with these issues, looking at all of these as a whole different aspect of business than what my company is doing. Um, that said, I've got a couple of people on my team that can do programming, and was really encouraged. You know, that's why I bought them tickets for J-Day USA to take the coding course and to look at how things were going, how things work, just so they can begin to continue to to just know how Joomla works, and because there is a shortage of Joomla developers. Oh my
Yeah, most
goodness.
definitely. Yeah. We
Yeah.
need some younger blood in the community.
Okay, I won't take that personally, but
I mean, I'm not that far off anyway. You see this?
Well, he's also the
uh,
part of no Instagram team.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know the other thing, the other challenge though is all right. So people who are skilled developers, they've got their projects that they're doing and they're passionate about it. Plus, they have to maintain them. So it's hard for
Mhm.
them to just take on something. Plus, if they take on a project and program something, and then 6 months later things have changed and it needs changing, it needs adapting. Uh, you don't really want to have a string of people are saying, oh, that program you did for me, can you modify it? And you say, actually, no, I can't because I'm busy.
Mhm.
Because then they're right, right or wrong, they're mad at you. And you don't want to collect people that are mad at you.
Yeah.
um, then there are developers who are really bad at promoting themselves, so they're great at developing, but they don't know how to promote a product,
Market themselves. Yeah.
market themselves, and so they do the programming, but they don't want to deal with people, right? They don't want to deal with that aspect. They love programming, which is great because if you can get them into the fold of your company and sort of be a buffer and an interaction between a go between them and what the client needs, then that's good. And then on the flip side too, is that you'll get it when I've asked people to quote on projects for clients. Hey, I have a client that needs some custom programming. What would you quote? And they come back and they quote, yeah, I think that'll take 10 hours and the cost will be this. And then you tell the client, and this is like, oh, uh, I thought it'd be $50, right? So it's like, no, 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 no. So that's why I would love to have that's why I'm hoping my team continues to grow in their ability, because then I can do things in house and we can be realistic. And because for a while there, I've given up a couple of times on finding developers just because I spend so much time in the go between, and I think it might be too because a lot of many of not all but many of the clients that I have and that I track through my channel are they're not uh, big companies with big programming demand. So when they do need something that's little and custom, they might not necessarily have the budget for it. But now, having said that, I do have some clients that are in that place, and they understand the cost and they're paying it, and it works out very well. So it's just challenges of business, but that's good because someone the other day said Winston Churchill. Do you know who Winston Churchill was? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Winston Churchill said, "Never waste a good crisis." Right. So the things that we face in our business that are challenging, they're opportunities, right? And so we just need discernment and wisdom to know whether what's on the other side of pushing through them is worth the time and the effort. But for people that think like, oh, this is hard, this is not the way to go, they're gonna struggle finding success in business because the struggle is what I just listened to an ebook called The Dip, and he talks about when you are working on something and it starts to get hard, you're facing the dip, and they said that's your friend, because if you get through that, you're trying to be the best at what you do, best in the world, whether it's the whole world or just you're the best in your city, if that's your world. If you get through that, the dip protects you because a lot of other people run into it and will quit. So if you can get through that, if you get through that dip and perfect what you're doing and become the best at what you're doing, then you own the space because the other people will just not. People just won't. So I think that's really, really good.
That reminds me of something our CEO used to say. So he's an athlete that does a lot of sports related stuff. So he used to say that every time there's a dip, that is when you accelerate, because the next time the things get hard, I mean, next time the incline goes up, you already have that momentum working with you, not against you. So
Yeah.
if you accelerate and push harder on the dip, it makes easier things in the long run.
Yeah.
So this matches perfectly with the analogy.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had problems that have taken me like 10 hours to solve. And then when I finally figured out, and partly because I'm not, because I'm not a developer, I don't do that much programming. And when I solved it, I thought, oh, that's great. The next time I run into that, I can do that in 15 minutes. Right. And then you have a new skill and ability to, a new skill and ability to offer to people to hire out. So
that's
good.
why the cost is not $50, it's $500 for that 10 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the whole thing about being good at what you're doing, if you've pushed through the dip, there is a scarcity because not a lot of people can do it. Right. So if it's help doing, if it's something that 1,000 people can do, then sure, then that's great. But if it's something that only 3 people can do or fewer people can do, then you can charge more for it because there's value to it. And if there's people that don't see the value in it, then that's their situation where they're at, and they'll either suffer and see the value of it, or they'll, like this book says, quit and do something else, which is very interesting too, because I've helped people. I don't think I do it so much anymore, but I remember years ago helping people. And I thought, oh, they needed something. So I thought, well, I'll just help them. And this will be nice to be kind for them. And I want to be kind and help people. But then all of a sudden you put in all kinds of hours to help them. And then the next thing you know, they run into another obstacle or an idea and they say, oh, I'm going to do this now. And everything that you did is lost. Right. So it's okay to let people suffer to help them figure out what to do, because man, I've suffered quite a bit learning things. So it's being,
I mean, that is how you grow. So why not? Is different. Do it.
Yeah. Well, this has been great. Thank you for showing me that. Thanks for teaching me that, and I got the gears turning. Anybody who's actually watched to this end part, then good for them. I'll make sure I put your contact information, have links to your support and that in the video description when I put this on my site. And I appreciate you guys take now. Is this a working shift for all of you, or did you stay up to do this?
I mean, we did stay, but I'm pretty
Yes,
used to working around the clock, so that's like just another
Okay.
Tuesday for me. But it's actually
Okay.
Monday. But anyway.
Good. All right. Well, Tanishq and Rahul and Mahik, thanks for coming on. And if you have other things to show or anything that you want to share, I love having people on the channel. It doesn't have to be this long. And but that was great, and I enjoyed our discussion. And thanks for asking me questions. That was very nice.
Yeah, of course,
Yep.
we'd love to come back. And who knows, we might be able to showcase you some more of uh, sort of like a Bitwarden alternative as well, if that interests you. That's not a Joomla product, of course, that's a part of another product, but if you're up for it,
Yeah.
we
Oh,
can
yeah. No,
consider it.
I'd love to have you on, and we should have a party when Mahik switches to Joomla.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
I'll get right on it.
I'm waiting for it.
Good. All right. I'll just sign off here as I usually do to everybody here on the channel. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your support of the channel as usual. I hope that wherever this finds you, be it morning, evening, afternoon, or tomorrow, where these guys are, that you are well. Until next time, enjoy your Joomla sites, and God bless.